Right. Welcome all. Today's topic is special semiconductor devices. It is the fifth chapter in the subject electronic device and circuits, which is a common subject for both electronics and communication engineering ECE department and electronics and instrumentation engineering students of diploma of SBTET Telangana. It is in the C18 curriculum, third semester. So the subject code is 303. In the previous lessons, we have learned about the oscillator circuits, that is Hartley oscillator. We have seen the circuit and circuit operation. We have derived the frequency formula, and we have seen Colpitt's oscillator also. Again, we have learned about the circuit operation and derived the frequency formula. Next, we have moved on to the crystal oscillator, and again we have seen the equivalent electrical circuit of that crystal, and we have derived the frequency of operation of the crystal circuit, and we compared the LC and RC oscillators. Now moving on to the next topic, that is special semiconductor device, that is in the fifth chapter. These are the objectives and sub topics in this particular chapter. First one is varactor diode. If we see the topic special semiconductor devices, till now we have known about the semiconductors, that is p type semiconductor and n type semiconductor, and from those semiconductors we have the diode, and from the diode we have constructed the transistor and different types of transistors. Now we have to learn about some of the special semiconductor devices which will be used for a particular application. These will have special characteristics compared to the general diode and transistor. In that, first one is varactor diode. First, see the topic. A reverse biased PN junction diode can be compared to a charged capacitor as shown in figure 5.1. A reverse biased PN junction diode. See, this is the basic PN junction diode represented in the level of holes and electrons. You must have learned about this in the second semester itself, that is in the semiconductor devices subject. Whenever we apply the reverse bias to this particular PN junction diode, the reverse bias means here the P region, P terminal is connected to the negative of this voltage, negative terminal of this supply voltage, and N region is connected to the positive of this DC supply voltage. And because of that, in the P region we know holes are the majority carriers, and in the N region electrons are the majority carriers. Holes possesses positive charge and electrons possesses negative charge. When we apply negative terminal of the voltage, supply voltage VR to this P region, then the positive charge holes will be attracted toward this negative supply voltage terminal, because opposite charges attract, as we all know. So the direction of these holes are seen to the leftwards, that is, you can see in the diagram. Same case with this n region electrons. They have negative charge, and the supply reverse bias voltage has positive charge. Positive terminal is connected here, so they also will be attracted towards the end terminal. But what happens in the middle of this P and N diode? In the middle, generally, you see that dotted lines are represent, that is the region, depletion region. It is depleted of charge carriers. It is depleted of charge carriers. There is lesser charge carriers. There is no charge carriers present in this particular region. That's why it is called a depletion region. The width of this depletion region, which is formed by the PN junction, is increases. The width increases because of this applied reverse bias. Because whatever the charge carriers in the P type and N type, they are attracted towards the terminal sides. That is, they are not going into the particular this depletion region. They are going outwards. So the depletion region extends. They move outwards. They are moving the outwards. So the width of the depletion region is increases. But what we have in this depletion region, if you see in the diagram, the minus and plus indications, right? They are immovable carriers. They are like ions. They are immovable. In the bottom, you see the whatever the ends of this depletion region, that is the dotted lines represent here, that is a plate 1 and plate 2, indicated as plate 1 plate 2, because they contain the charge carriers. They can allow the current. They will act as conductors. So the P region will act as a conductor that will allow the current, and N region also possesses some charge carriers. Here charge carriers are negative charges. In the case of P region, they are positive charge carriers. They will also carry some current due to holes, and N region current due to electrons. So both regions will act as plates, conducting plates, and in between them we have the depletion region, that is depleted of the charge carriers, immovable ions. They will act as dielectric, which will not allow any charge carriers to flow. But if they reach the charge carriers, if they have the energy to cross this region, then they can easily cross, right? So in this case, the charge carriers are moving outward, so this depletion region will act as a dielectric. So the equivalent circuit of this particular PN junction diode in case of reverse bias is represented as a capacitance. Below the PN junction, you can see it is a CT. That is called transition capacitance. It is represented, it is assumed, it will function like a capacitance in case of reverse bias. Remember, it is a reverse bias. So this is the condition for a varactor diode. A reverse biased PN junction diode can be compared to a charged capacitor. We can compare that particular region to a capacitor. The P and N regions away from the space charge region, that is the depletion region. P and N regions away from the space charge region are essentially low resistance areas due to high concentration of majority carriers, right? The holes and electrons. The space charge region, which is depleted of majority carriers, that is the depletion region, which is depleted of majority carriers, serves as an effective insulation between the P and N regions. The P and N regions acts as the plates of the capacitor, while the space charge region acts as dielectric. The reverse biased PN junction thus has an effective capacitance whose value is given by Ct. As we know, the capacitance formula C is equal to epsilon A by W, where epsilon is the Greek letter epsilon, that is equal to permittivity of the semiconductor material. That is, whatever the dielectric that has some permittivity, that value is epsilon here. A means area of the junction. A means area of the junction. Actually, A means area of the plate. It's not the junction. And in this case, junction and a plate area both are same. W means width of the space charge region. That is the dielectric. W here means width of the space charge. So, as the width of the space charge region is approximately proportional to the square root of the reverse bias voltage. Yes, this is we know from the basic operation of this diode. That is the width is what happens. Width is approximately proportional to, this is directly proportional to the actually the reverse bias voltage, but it is the square root. The area and permittivity being constant, area and permittivity being the constant, so Ct is equal to K by under root Vr. K means constant, that is epsilon A, and width is directly proportional to the under root of Vr, so we can write like that. As the reverse bias increases, the space charge region becomes wider. The reverse bias increases, the space charge region becomes wider, thus effectively increasing the plate separation and decreasing the capacitance. As the reverse bias increases, the space charge region becomes wider, thus effectively increasing the plate separation and decreasing the capacitance. Silicon diodes optimized for this variable capacitance effect are called varactors. So, what are the diodes which are optimized for this variable capacitance effect are called varactors. So, these are the varactor diodes. That means variable capacitor, varactor, variable capacitor, because they depend on the reverse bias voltage. So, the working principle, if you see, consider a reverse biased PN junction diode. The depletion region formed between the P and N regions do not have any mobile charge carriers, that is either free electrons or holes. Hence, it acts as an insulator. P and N regions are essentially low resistance areas due to high concentration of majority carriers. Hence, they act as conducting regions. Now, we observe the two conducting regions, the P and N regions, are separated by the dielectric. Therefore, from the fundamental of components, a reverse biased PN junction acts as a capacitor. The effective capacitance of a reverse biased PN junction is given by Ct is equal to epsilon A by W, and we know the remaining portion, and Ct is directly proportional to 1 by Vr power n, where Vr is the reverse voltage, but n is equal to a constant value which depends on doping density, right? We cannot go directly, that is W is directly proportional to under root Vr and Vr, the under root Vr power 1 by 2. So n is equal to 1 by 2 for abrupt junction and 1 by 3 for a linearly graded junction. If the junction is sudden change at a particular point, that sudden abrupt increase the charge carriers, then we will consider n is equal to 1 by 2. If it is not an abrupt junction, then it will be a linear smooth increase, gradual increase in the level of the voltage, that is EMF in the junction, then it will be a graded junction. Then n is equal to 1 by 3. Hence, by varying the reverse bias on the junction, the capacitance of the junction can be varied. This is the basic principle of a varactor diode. Whatever we have learned in the previous slides, they just repeated in this area, but the new concept is 1 by VR power n, where n is equal to 1 by 2 for upright junction and 1 by 3 for linearly graded junction. Note the capacitance of varactor diode is also known as, this is different names for this capacitance, that is transition capacitance CT, barrier capacitance, depletion layer capacitance, and junction capacitance. These are the variable names available for this capacitance. Now going to the next topic, that is characteristics of this varactor diode. If you see, CT is directly proportional to 1 by under root of VR, 1 by under root of VR, or 1 by VR power n. So as capacitance increases, as voltage increases, capacitance decrease. The capacitance is maximum when the VR is minimum. See, the Cmax occurs at VR low values, that is VR is reverse bias voltage, that's why we represented it as an negative x-axis, and C minimum will occur where VR will become maximum. VR will also have some limitation, that is reverse bias breakdown voltage, if you can remember from the characteristics of diode, right? So these are the Cmax and Cmin. Figure shows the typical varactor diode characteristics curve. It shows graphically how the capacitance of a varactor diode varies with the reverse bias voltage. This indicates that the variation of capacitance is maximum when the reverse voltage is low. It reduces in a non-linear manner, right? It is a curve. It's not a straight line. It is a non-linear curve. It's like a parabola. Non-linear manner as the value or reverse voltage is increased. Symbol of varactor diode. You know the symbol of diode, but the varactor diode symbol, if you see the figure A, that is anode and cathode, same as diode, but there is a capacitance symbol attached to this diode, or it can be represented as second one in the figure A, the second one, anode and cathode in a circle, anode versus diode with the capacitor, and equivalent circuit can be represented in this figure B, that is junction resistance in parallel with junction capacitance in series with RS, series resistance, and cathode. Figure shows commonly used circuit symbols to represent a varactor diode. The electrical equivalent circuit for a varactor diode is shown in figure. Cj represents the junction capacitance and is a function of applied bias. Rj is the junction resistance and is a function of applied bias, where Rs is the resistance including resistance of the wafer and the resistance of the ohmic electrical leads. Whatever we solder or we attach the electrical leads to these junctions in order to connect the leads, so that we can make a connection in the circuit. The diode can be connected to other components, right? Those are the electrical leads we connect to that particular terminal of P and N junctions, and is a function of applied bias. At microwave frequencies, RJ is the order of 10 mega ohm and may be neglected compared to capacitive reactance. See, at higher frequencies, the junction resistance is of the order of 10 mega ohm. Junction resistance in parallel with capacitor resistance, so it may be neglected compared to the capacitive reactance. Now, the application of varactor diodes, where we can use this particular diode, that is various applications are available. So in tuned circuits, FM modulators, where the output voltage is proportional, output frequency is proportional to the applied voltage, because here the capacitance is proportional to the, that means inversely proportional to the applied voltage, right? If you can remember in the tuned circuits, the frequency formula f is equal to 1 by 2 pi under root LC. If we vary the C capacitor, then frequency can be varied. The C can be varied from this varactor diode, that is, if we change the VR, applied voltage VR, then the C changes. Because of this C, the output frequency F can be changed. So this is the operation generally we use. This is the concept when we use in the tuned circuits and FM modulators and automatic frequency control devices, adjustable band pass filters, parametric amplifiers and television receivers. So with this we complete the today's varactor diode concept. Next we are going with the UJT, uni junction transistor. First see the symbol of unijunction transistor and the representation of this UJT. Figure A. Observe this figure A in which we have two bases, base 1 and base 2. So the two terminals and another terminal, that is E, that is emitter, in which we have in the middle portion, that is the main portion, that is N-type silicon slab, but with the emitter terminal we are connected across a small portion of P-type semiconductor. So whole N-type semiconductor in which we have a small portion of P-type semiconductor is connected. So there will be a junction P and N, both the whenever these P and N semiconductors are combined, then there will be a junction, PN junction will be formed. Because of these three terminals we can call it as a transistor, and we have only single junction here, P and N, single junction, that's why it is called unijunction transistor. And we can see the symbol, right, B1 and B2, actually it is B1 and B2, please make a correction there, and emitter, but emitter is not in the middle portion, right, it is somewhat near to the B2. In the construction process also, in the making of this transistor also, the emitter terminal is connected nearer to the P2, because this P, whatever we are introducing the P type semiconductor in this N type silicon, is somewhat nearer to the B2. That's how its construction is happens. So the emitter is represented in this symbol. The emitter is represented somewhat nearer to the B2. This is correct only, no need to worry, because some may have the doubts that by whenever we are making this PPTs, that may be because of the correction errors. It is not like that, right? Emitter is somewhat nearer to this B2 terminal, base 2. A unijunction transistor is a three-terminal semiconductor switching device. And the construction means, the basic construction of UJT is shown in figure. It consists of lightly doped N-type silicon bar. It is a lightly doped, we can call it as N minus. That means lightly doped silicon bar. If it is heavily doped, we will be represented as N plus. If it is moderately doped, we can represent it as N type. Simply we can call it as N type. If we don't mention anything that is lightly doped or heavily doped, it will be considered as a moderately doped semiconductor. Two ohmic contacts are attached to this bar at the opposite ends. They are denoted as B1 and B2, base 1 and base 2. Please students, please draw the symbols, so that while I am reading the construction of UJT and I am explaining, you can easily understand, because I cannot show these two slides on a single slide. Okay, please Draw the symbol. A PN junction is formed at a point closer to B2 than to B1. The terminal brought from this P-type material is called emitter. And the figure B shows the circuit symbol of the UJT. The arrow indicates the direction of flow of conventional current when the UJT is forward bias. Forward bias, the emitter, the current will flow from this emitter terminal to the towards the base. The following points are worth noting regarding the construction of the UJT. Since the device has one PN junction and three LEDs, it is commonly known as unijunction transistor, where uni means single. With one PN junction, the device is really a form of diode. Since two base terminals are taken from one section of the diode, this device is also called double based diode. Two bases, right? Base 1 and base 2. So we can call it as double based diode. The N-type region is lightly doped, while P-type is heavily doped. We can represent it as P plus, actually P plus and N. So the P-type is heavily doped and N-type is lightly doped. For this reason, the resistance between E and B1, emitter and B1, is more than that is between E and B2. Right? Why? The resistance depends on the material, because the resistance formula R is equal to rho L by A. The resistance is directly proportional to the length of the material. So if it is nearer to this B2, then there it will have less resistance, and as it is more distance from this B1, so it will has higher resistance. Now see the working principle of UJT. See, this is the equivalent representation, equivalent electrical circuit of the particular UJT. So without these voltages, if you see, without these supply voltages, bias voltages VE and VBB, you see there is a diode with emitter terminal, and the cathode terminal is connected to these two bases, base 2 and base 1, and RB1, the RB2 are the two resistances there, right? Two resistance values, and we are giving the supply voltages VEE and VBB. VD is the diode voltage, diode drop. I is the emitter current, right? Now see the working principle of UJT. Working principle of UJT can be easily understood with the help of an equivalent circuit of UJT. This is the equivalent circuit. The equivalent circuit of UJT is shown in figure. It consists of a diode and the resistance RBB. The diode D represents PN junction and RBB represents the resistance between the base B2 and base B1. With case 1, with no voltage applied to the UJT, the interbase resistance is given by RBB, that is RB1 plus the whole resistance RB1 plus RB2. The value of RBB generally lies in between 4 kilo ohm to 10 kilo ohm. When there is no voltage, the resistance, the base resistance will be RBB is equal to RB1 plus RB2. Case 2. If a voltage VBB is applied across the base terminal with emitter open, please draw the circuit, right? I may not tell every time, but whenever you see a symbol or a circuit in this particular chapter and this particular subject, you must draw every figure, every circuit. Please draw. By pausing this video, you can draw. Then only you can easily and you can follow this words and topic. If a voltage VBB is applied across the base terminals with emitter open, with V is equal to 0, there is no connection between emitter and base, then V is 0, but we have applied VB B. The voltage will drop across RB1 and RB2. As there are two resistors connected in series, the voltage whatever we applied across the base terminals VBB, and we didn't apply any input to the emitter, that is the open circuit. So the whatever the voltage we applied VBB will divide in this series circuit, that is RB1 and RB2. The drops will be V1 across the RB1. Voltage drop across RB1 is equal V1 is equal RB1 by total voltage, so total resistance RB1 plus RB2 into whatever the voltage we applied VBB, voltage dividing formula, simple formula, no need to worry about. V1 by VBB, some modification, RB1 by RB1 plus RB2, where VBB is interbase voltage, RBB is RB1 plus RB2 interbase resistance. The ratio V1 by VBB is called intrinsic standoff ratio and is represented by Greek letter. V1 by VBB is called intrinsic standoff ratio, that is neta, and it is represented by n eta. Eta is equal to RB1 by RB1 plus RB2. Voltage drop across RB1 is equal to neta, so eta VBB, because eta is equal to V1 by VBB, then we call V1 is equal to eta VBB. The voltage appearing across RB1 reverse bias the PN junction diode. So whatever the voltage appearing across the RB1, because of this voltage, the PN junction diode will be in reverse bias. Why? Because we are applying positive terminal here VBB, and whatever the positive voltage the RB1 V1 is will be positive voltage will be applied to this N terminal, and the negative is, and the whatever the P terminal of this diode is left open, that means we can consider it as a zero voltage, but for the negative terminal N we are applying the positive voltage, so it will be in reverse bias mode. Therefore, small reverse leakage current flows from B2 to emitter due to minority carriers. Right? In the reverse bias also we will have some current, as the people all know that from the characteristics, VI characteristics of diode, we can remember in the reverse bias also there is some leakage current of the order of nano amps which will flow. So here also same leakage current flows from B2 to emitter due to minority carriers. The device in the state is said to be in cutoff or in the off state. Yes, you can call it is in the off state. The value of neta is usually lies in between 0.51 and 0.82. Case 3. If now a progressively rising positive voltage is applied to the emitter, in this case, in the third case, we are applying the voltage to the emitter terminal. Progressively rising positive voltage, so we are applying positive terminal to this P, so it will be obviously in the forward bias, because in the reverse the N terminal is applied to this, it is connected to that voltage across this B1, which will be of little value. So the whatever the applying voltage across this emitter terminal is more than the voltage V1, then it will become forward bias when the input voltage exceeds a critical value known as the peak point voltage, where peak point is equal to voltage across RB1 and VD, that is eta VBB and plus VD, where VD is the forward voltage drop, that is 0.7 for silicon diodes and 0.3 for germaniums, as we know all these things. When the diode D starts conducting, holes are injected from P-type material into the N-type bar, because holes are the majority carriers in case of P-type. So and we know that P is heavily doped, so they will have more holes, so they will be injected into the sundiver. These holes are repelled by a positive B2 terminal and they are attracted towards the B1 terminal of the bar. Right? You see the first P plus, so the positive sign of this P type semiconductor will inject holes into this N type material, N type thing, right? And we have connected the VBB. VBB is positive is connected to B2 and negative is connected to this B1. So what happens, whatever the injected holes in this area, they have positive charge and negative is connected to B1. So they will be attracted towards B1 and they will be repelled by B2 because B2 is connected to positive terminal. They will repel. This decreases the resistance RB1 from emitter to base 1 from several thousand ohms to a small value, right? Because they are attracted to this P1 terminal. So the charge carriers, whatever positive or negative, in this case the positive holes, they are attracted to this P1 terminal because B1 is connected to the negative terminal of the VBP, right? We do not apply any input voltage to this emitter terminal because of the N-type semiconductor and of charge carriers and of the length of the material. RB1 is the higher resistance compared to RB2, but because of when we apply the progressively rising positive voltage at emitter terminal, then the positive holes which are injected from the P-type semiconductor into the N-type material, they are attracted towards the P1. Because of this, the resistance decreases. So because the charge carrier flows, that is, there is a flow of current, flow of current increasing because of the decrease in the resistance, basic Ohm's law. Now the result is that internal voltage drop from emitter to B1 is decreased, and hence because resistance decreases, so V is directly proportional to R, hence the emitter current increases. Because the resistance decreases, I is inversely proportional to resistance. So to balance that, voltage drop decreases, resistance decreases, but the current, because of this applied positively progressive voltage across the emitter terminal, because of that holes are injected into the N terminal, so there is increase in the charge carriers, so which will lead to the increase in current. This device is now in on state, right? There is a flow of current. It may be noted that the emitter current is limited by emitter power supply only, right? Emitter supply, because we are, whenever we don't apply any voltage, there is an off state because no charge carriers will be flow into the N type material from the P type, so there will be off state. When we apply the voltage and keep on increasing the input voltage, these are basic VI characteristics of forward bias diode. You can remember they are proportional to the exponential proportionality. The curve is also exponential, you see. Case 4. If a negative pulse is applied, what happens if we apply the negative pulse? The PN junction is reverse biased and the emitter current is cut off. In this condition, the device is said to be in off state. So there are two states, right? If you don't apply any input value, because of the VBB, it will be in reverse bias. So this is in the off state. But whenever we apply the positive voltage to the VE, then it will be into the positive forward bias and increase the current. But whenever we apply the reverse voltage to this emitter, then also it will be in off state. Some of the additional information from this topic: interbase resistance. It consists of a diode and the resistance RBB. The diode D represents PN junction and RBB represents the resistance between base 2 and base 1, or the total resistance of the silicon bar from one to other with the emitter terminals open. It is also called interbase resistance, as you know from the figure. RBB is equal to RB1 plus RB2. Thus, the interbase resistance is represented by two resistors in series. RB2 is the resistance of the silicon bar between B2 and the point at which the interjunction lies. RB1 is the resistance of the silicon bar between the B1 and emitter junction. Yes, this resistance is known as variable because its value depends upon the bias voltage across N junction. That's why if you note from the figure that RB1 is a variable resistance, it is represented as a variable resistance because if we apply the voltage across the emitter terminal because of the forward bias and reverse bias conditions, the resistance of this RB1 will change. So that's why it is a variable resistance. It is noted that at the point A, RB1 is greater than RB2. Usually RB1 is 60% of RB2. Resistance RB1 is variable because its value depends upon the bias voltage across PN junction. Intrinsic standoff ratio, that is eta, is equal to V1 by RB1. If a voltage VBB is applied between the V1 by VBB, it is if a voltage VBB is applied between the base with the emitter open, the voltage will across RB1 and RB2. As we know, V1, V2, where V1, V2 and VBB, RBB, RB1 and RB2. The ratio V1 by VBB or RB1 by RB1 plus RB2 is called intrinsic standoff ratio and is as we know all this information. The value of eta usually lies, voltage across RB1 is, peak point voltage. The voltage eta VBB appears across RB1 reverse bias the voltage. That is, if V gamma is the cut-in voltage of the PN junction, the total reverse bias voltage is given by Vp is equal to eta VBB plus V gamma, where Vp is the peak point voltage. See, read it again. Peak point voltage. The voltage eta VBB appearing across RB1 reverse bias the diode. Yes, eta VBB is because of VBB applying. This one will reverse bias the diode. V gamma is the cut-in voltage of the PN junction. The total reverse bias voltage is given by eta VBB plus V gamma. Yes, this is the peak point voltage. Now we have to see the UJT characteristics, but as the time is more, we can see it in the next class. So today we have completed about the varactor diode, how it is formed, from where we can represent this varactor diode, and the working of the varactor diode, symbol of varactor diode, applications of this varactor diode, and the characteristics of the varactor diode. And we have moved to the next topic, that is UJT. We have seen the construction, equivalent circuit, operation of the UJT. The remaining topic is characteristics of UJT and applications of UJT, which we are going to learn in the next lecture. Okay, so before you watch the next video, please read this topics once again, because as they are special devices, they will have some special characteristics compared to the normal diode and normal transistor, which you may get confused, right? So everyone, please read the topics once again and draw the circuits at least 3 to 4 times, so that you can remember which terminal is which terminal and which device is used in which biasing. Also, it depends on the bias also. Some device will work only in reverse bias like Zener diode. Some device will work in forward bias like LEDs, right? Some device will have same terminals, that is base 1 base 2 like UJT, right? No collector terminal in that, so you may get confused easily, because since the second semester you have known about only the basic diodes, Zener diode and the transistor. So in this chapter, but you are going to learn more than 10 or 12 new devices. Every lecture will consist of at least two new semiconductor or variety semiconductor devices compared to the basic diode. So there is a higher chance of you may get confused. So in order to get the clarification and no confusion, please read every topic twice or thrice. These are the most important topics when you go to the competitive exams, because everybody know the basic VI characteristics of a simple diode, but they will ask this particular special semiconductors only, in order to get confused or to filter out the candidates. And there will be some extra points also regarding these special semiconductor, because of the new materials we use compared to the basic materials, and the temperature also, some of the voltage levels also they will ask, right? So please cover all those topics, extra topics, by Google. Okay, so now I am closing the session, today's session. Thank you, one and all.